Hey, and welcome to the last edition of Pride Mythology Month, I guess. This is the fourth installment of the series that we're doing for Pride on rainbow goddesses. Today's goddess is going to be Prende. She's an Illyrian rainbow goddess. Before we do that, let's talk about This Is Where All the Ladies At. This is a podcast where I look at myth, legend, and history and talk about women and shine a light on them because I don't think they get enough sparkle. What was I gonna say? I am Kim. I am your host. I am a history nerd, a myth lover, and a archaeology groupie. I'm also happen to be a writer, and I am someone who is a proud member of the community, the queer community. That's right. I was an ally for years, and then through some things that happened, realized that my allyship was more than that, and I was part of the community. So this month I really wanted to celebrate Pride Month, and to do that I thought what better than to look at rainbow goddesses, right? Why not? Before we get started jumping and talking about Prende, we're going to talk about a couple things. The first thing is on all these episodes I am saying and letting you guys know that I'm going from currently now I release 8 episodes a month. That is going to go down to 2. I'm going to do 1 myth and 1 history, and that's going to free up a bunch of time for me to do other things, such as keep my Medium publication up to date, do some more stuff on social media, as well as create a newsletter, and also write small ebooks. All of these things are going to help me build more of a community and give you guys some benefits for being part of the community. That being said, all the newsletter and the books will be available on my Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon within the next couple of weeks, and then eventually they will be available on my website once that gets up and launching, and I may actually self-publish the book onto Barnes & Noble as well. So there's a lot of stuff coming in the future, but in order to do that, I had to cut back on the episodes right now. Eventually, maybe in the future, we'll add some more, but I really wanted more time to be able to diversify and give you guys more stuff, and that's kind of what I'm doing. That being said, if you want to reach out to me, you can do that through my social media. I have Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. As I said, they haven't been super active, but they will be starting to be. If you don't like social media, you can check out, there's an email I have down below. That will work out as well. If you want to support the podcast, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, do all that kind of good stuff. Any type of engagement with the audio or the video will allow the algorithms of said platforms, in particular Spotify and YouTube, to know that people are interested. And you can check them out, right? What else? If you want to support me, find a podcast by kicking a little cash my way, you can do that too through my Coffee and Patreon. Right now, it will just be donations, but coming up in the next month or so, you'll have some things that you can purchase and do that kind of thing. If you want more on this, check out my Medium publication. As I said, it will start to be more vibrant because I will have more time to dedicate to it. And if you are into magical, mystical, spiritual, that kind of stuff, you might also want to check out my other podcast called Our Mystic Road Trip. And that's it for the shameless plugging and housekeeping. So now we can get talking about Prende, the Illyrian rainbow goddess. So here's the thing, guys, just not last month, the month before, I did a whole month on Illyrian goddesses. So if you are interested in that, go back and check that out. If you watched or listened to those, some of this stuff may sound familiar when I start talking about the Illyrians and their cultural landscape. But for those that are new here, that's what's going to happen. So when I say Illyrian, I'm talking about the Balkans. And she was an amazing thing. So before we jump into her, though, let's talk a little bit about the Illyrians. Okay, so like I said, I did a whole month of episodes on the goddesses back there, plus I covered a couple Illyrians historically, in particular Tuta, which check her out. Go back and check out the episodes. They're amazing. The Illyrians were basically ancient tribes in the Western Balkan area, right? This would be places nowadays, Albania, Kosovo, parts of Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Serbia. And if you've been to that area, you know that there's some pretty amazingly rugged mountains, right? It's a beautiful land, right? This is the Dinaric Alps. But there's also beautiful rivers and fertile plains. This is not a travel podcast, but I would say if you get a chance, you should definitely check them out. And what this area and what the Illyrians were really well known for was kind of like this warrior spirit. They were some of the best warriors. They were, warriors and sailors, right? Some of them were very good, if you think about where that is located, that it was in between the Roman Empire and the Greek group, right? So at some point they were fighting off everybody. They had to be really strong warriors, right? So they were really well known that. And they were also really well known for their spiritual reverence. They were very in tune with nature, right? As I said, they were really well known for their sailing skills, their maritime skills, might you say. And they actually had very good trade deals with like the Greeks and the Romans across the Adriatic Sea, right? There's some pretty key figures in their pantheon. You have Engi, who's the fire god. You have Prende, which is the thunder god, and also the consort of Prende, who is the one that we're talking about today. And so Prende was goddess of love, light, fertility, and the rainbow, right? In Illyrian society, women in general held kind of a remarkable status, right? I really say go back and check out Tuta. She was the pirate queen. Awesome lady. And that is one of the testaments, right? So in the Illyrian society, women could participate in warfare and they held political power. They were very revered in their communities. If you look at, there's some ivory tablets and artifacts that have been found that really show the high status figures. And a lot of these are women, and they are symbols of fertility and beauty and divinity. The Illyrian men were fierce warriors, but, the women really embodied fierce grace too. And they influenced myths and stories, and those are still around today. Granted, a lot of their stuff is not written down, so it's not really like something, they just had to the archaeologists and historians had to piecemeal it together through stories from other people, typically usually the Greek or the Roman writers, and then through artifacts and archaeological digs that they've found. Once again, let me repeat, that area, one of my favorite places to visit. I loved Albania. Montenegro was amazing. That's primarily the area that I visited while I was there, and I could not say enough, but the culture and the history there is absolutely amazing. If you like to travel and you like history, I would suggest go check it out for sure. So now that we have a little idea of the women, and then we have an idea of the history, sort of, let's actually get down to talking about Prende, right? So, much like a lot of the gods and goddesses at that time in this region, it really depended on which tribe you were with, what they were called. So Prende also was called Premte or Petka or Afërdita, right? And that kind of all means like near day, right? Afërdita means near day. She is, here's the thing. We're going to talk, let's go. She, prominent figure. She kind of is really about warmth, the dawn, the soft glow, right? All this stuff. Friday was her sacred day, Premte in Albania. I think I pronounced that right. And that's kind of a living tribute to how important she was. That the word for Friday is literally one of her names, right? When we look at her, she was often kind of like compared to other love goddesses from other cultures, like Venus, Aphrodite, Freya, and that could be, construed in a lot of different ways, but I think, it's just a statement of the universal power of beauty and affection, right? one of the big symbols for her is the Lady Prende's belt, which is the rainbow, and it links the sky and the earth together, right? And it really symbolizes hope. She also, when it comes to like flowers bloom in her name. Also, the humble mortar and pestle is kind of one of her symbols, and that's interesting because it is a tool of alchemy, and that could be like showing her role in nurturing life itself, blending opposites into something harmonious, right? Because when you pound them together, they become one. She radiates beauty, she radiates possibility, and all that kind of stuff, right? She is the promise of love. She is power of gentle strength and possibility and new beginnings, right? First light of the morning, those kind of things. When we look at her worship and symbolism, here's the thing. Once again, guys, like the Illyrians didn't really write things down. So I will say that all of the stuff I'm saying is in caveat, because I have to caveat it because it's written from another person's point of view. And yeah, there are some archaeological finds that they can kind of tie in, but a lot of historians take it from those places. So we have to kind of figure out which one we think is right, right? So offerings and rituals, of course, wine, sweet delicacies, altars, right? Anything that symbolized abundance or sweetness of life. That for her rituals, there was definitely infused air with perfumes, you know, probably natural scents that really tribute flowers and that kind of thing. Friday, which is her sacred day, you know, you may have found like devotees would wear certain colors, so pink and red if they were looking for passion and love, gold and white for purity, every color of the rainbow, you know, for full power and beauty. I think that is a statement I like to make at Pride Month. I think, you know, worshiping Prende was not only a ritual, though. It was like a celebration of love and healing, right? Here's as Christianity kind of spread in the Balkans, it's interesting because Prende's worship didn't really vanish, right? She was, I'm going to say I say this right, syncretized as Saint Veneranda or Saint Anne, and really continued to be honored under new names, right? So her entity transformed into a saint, and then it became something that they still worshipped, right? In fact, in many Albanian churches were built on sites that weren't once sacred to her, and this really showed her cultural presence. Now, I will say, and this is a piece of history that I would not, during the communist phase, some of these churches were turned into other things, and they were destroyed because the dictator that ruled them, Enver Hoxha, I think is his name, was, and no offense to Albanians, and most Albanians I think feel the same way that I do, he was a little batshit crazy. He was a strong man who liked to control things, and that if that meant that he had to get rid of churches and things like that, he did it. He also built way too many bunkers. That's on a side note. If you're interested in that, go check him out. There is some craziness happening over there, right? So if we look at her, she was really called upon as a guardian of fertility, like a keeper of light, right? So archaeologically, there's been some things, right? So there's ivory tablets and artifacts that have been found, artifacts that have been found in some Illyrian territories, and this could be hints at Prende's worship. Artifacts often depict women adorned with fertility symbols and divinity symbols, things like flowers and intricate jewelry, and this could link itself to Prende's worship. I would say that these finds, and I think a lot of historians suggest that women held positions of honor and power in the home, as well as equal partners in marriages with warriors. I think the interesting about Illyrians, and I think a lot of older cultures, is that they really blended like the martial and the domestic together when it came to symbology in there. So you had weapons and jewelry together, right? And this really shows that the Illyrians supported the divine feminine idea, but not that they were just nurturing and loving, but they were also fierce and fighting, right? So war and peace. I think Prende's worship was woven more into daily life. Any beauty or fertility goddess or god tended to have that, right? I think with her, and like with a lot of gods and goddesses that we've learned about, there's a lot of duality, right? Strength and tenderness, war and fertility, all those kind of things. Prende was more than a goddess, right? She was this kind of ideal woven into like the Illyrian worldview, the daily rituals, all that kind of stuff. Her legacy really kind of speaks to a people that believed that divine feminine was not something separate or distant, but that really lived and breathed in every part of the world. And I think that is beautiful. Now, if we look at like her legacy, I would say, as we said, Premte, which is Friday, is a direct reference to her, right? And this, it shows that her identity is kind of still alive in daily life, right? In stories, songs, and folk tales, Prende's name is kind of pretty big and really spoken with a lot of respect and joy. And they also, when they're doing this, they really highlight the dawn, love, and renewal aspect of her. Prende's representation represents the dance between light and shadow. I mean, it's right. So hope, growth, renewal, whatever it is, she's a quiet strength, right? I think rainbows are, in this kind of culture, is seen as a sign of Prende's grace, right? Obviously, it's linking heavens and earth together. Every flower blooms in springtime, all this kind of stuff, right? And I think in the hearts of her follower, Prende was a beacon of enduring love. And I'm assuming that with the neo-pagan movement that's came out, there are probably Albanians that maybe are worshiping her again, or maybe people of Illyrian descent that worship. And, and she's really this archetype of feminine spirit, gentle but fierce. And that is the woman's spirit. I think, I think that's it. Now we're going to go into the mythic tale. So, once again, before we jump into that, I just want to say these tales are expanded upon. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of material to be had, so I took my creative license, but tried to keep it in line with the culture and the goddess herself. That being said, it is story time. So grab your beverage of choice, whether that be a cocoa or a cocktail, and grab a blanket, cuddle up with your kitty, and let's talk about Prende, the rainbow's embrace. Let me share with you a tale whispered by the winds and cradled by the earth, passed down through countless generations. In the time when the world was young and raw, when the mountains were still stretching their backs and the rivers learning their song, the sky wept without end. Great clouds clung to the heavens like mourners' shrouds in the sun. A timid child hid behind their sorrowful veils. The earth grew weary of this endless rain, her fertile body cold and shivering, her flowers curled in sleep. The rivers murmured their laments, the forest shuddered with chill, and the hearts of all living creatures grew heavy with longing. From the depths of this lament rose a single cry, a yearning so pure and so desperate that it pierced the celestial realms. Prende, the radiant goddess of love and dawn, heard this cry in her heart. Moved by the sorrow of the world, she descended from the heavens, her luminous feet leaving footprints of starlight on the clouds. As she stepped lightly across the firmament, each footfall spilled forth color, painting the sky with the promise of something new. She danced across the weeping sky, and where her toes kissed the clouds, a radiant arc was born, the first rainbow, a shimmering bridge between the sorrow of the storm and the quiet of hope of the earth below. The world watched in wonder as Prende's laughter rang like silver bells, a melody that coaxed shy blossoms from their buds and set birds to singing songs they'd never known. Her gentle hands cupped the cold earth, warming it with the tender heat of life itself. With each breath, flowers unfurled like bright prayers, and the rivers, once burdened by tears, sparkled in the joy beneath sun's timid light. Prende's touch was both balm and blessing, weaving the scattered threads of the world into a tapestry of color and promise. And so it is said, whenever the sky adorns itself with that radiant belt after the rage of a storm, Prente has walked the world once more. She reminds us that even in the wake of sorrow, beauty endures, that the soft light of dawn always follows the dark night. Her rainbow, Lady Prente's belt, arches over us as a bridge of hope, a testament that love, once awakened, can turn even the bitterest tears into rivers of joy. And once again, that is a beautiful sentiment for Pride. And I am so happy to have been able to celebrate Pride by sharing these amazing goddesses with you and these cultures. And I hope that I've inspired you to check out more about them, whether that be historically or mythologically. Either way it goes, they are worth checking out. As always, guys, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so through my social or the email. If you want to support the podcast, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Or if you want to kick some cash my way, I have Buy Me Coffee and Patreon. If you want this and so much more, check out my Medium publication. And if you are into magical, mystical, spiritual stuff, please check out my other podcast. It's called Our Mystic Road Trip. And I just want to thank you guys for joining me on this Pride Month. There is one more episode for Pride Month for history. Yeah, this is it's been really, really cool to share these with you guys. So thank you for joining me. May Prente's light guide you through your own storms and the storms of the world we're in currently. Remember, hope and joy is always on the other side. And as always, guys, stay curious, stay safe, and stay blessed. Okay, I gotta go to the bathroom.